Shock, disbelief, anger, frustration, hopelessness. These are only a handful of the feelings we had been experiencing as survivors of 2 Category 5 hurricanes. The first Hurricane Irma hit us 1 month ago on September 6th. This was the most devastating one for us. Most of the people on the island didn't have the means to prepare for the storm, while some of us spent the little savings we had to do so. Others were physically unable to, due to their physical limitations or disabilities. After numerous terrifying hours spent in darkness, we arose to find our island destroyed. While I was fortunate enough to sleep in a wet room with 4 people, 1 dog and a cat, many spent the storm huddled under a wet mattress with their children, while glass and debris pummeled their bodies. Even my mom's 80-year-old best friend spent the storm alone in a pantry no larger than a broom closet, while her house and all of her belongings blew away around her. She is still without power or running water, exactly 1 month later. A large portion of the island couldn't even access the main roads after the storm due to oversized trees, roofs, and telephone poles blocking our way, not to mention unpassable portions of the main road altogether. It took myself and 4 other people 3 days to hack our way to the main road using machetes and handsaws. Thankfully, on the 3rd day, we gained access to a chainsaw to finish the job. We had no stores, gas stations, hospital, or airport. All ports of entry destroyed. Just when we had unboarded our houses and made them somewhat habitable again, Hurricane Maria came along. We had to undo the little progress that had taken us weeks to accomplish, and Hurricane Maria washed away what little of the island we had left. Not to mention, people were still suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome from Irma. The fear that we had to face with the 2nd Category 5 storm headed straight for us was palatable. 1 man I knew died while his house washed down the hill in the flooding rain. And the rain didn't stop there. In between Irma and Maria and after, the flooding rain was countered by unbearable heat. A large portion of the island lost their roofs, if not everything, and those of us with roofs dealt with constant flooding in our homes. We have received some help from the government, which we are very grateful for, but I think mostly the Army presence was directed to be here to prevent looting and social unrest. Mostly they've been directing traffic and handing out supplies at distribution centers, which are too few and not easily accessible. They were constantly running out of water, tarps, and the essentials. And the essentials I'm talking about, quote-unquote, food, which I say loosely, that we were given was consisted of Snickers, Skittles, Pringles, slices of Spam, or small packets of tuna. They're merely snacks, especially to those who have large families, and certainly not nutritional. The MREs that we received were being hoarded, in my opinion, from what I saw firsthand. They weren't being handed to everyone who asked for them, and those who asked for them were quickly shut up. The majority of supplies that we were receiving were being brought in by private planes and private boats from Puerto Rico and St. Croix, who had not received the brunt of Hurricane Irma. However, this ceased when both islands were devastated by Hurricane Maria. Meanwhile, most of the island, including myself, lost our jobs, and in addition, many of our dear friends and loved ones who had been forced to evacuate due to loss of home, jobs, or complete shock and fear. The feelings of loss are overwhelming at times. There are many people still without access to a generator, food, or supplies due to old age, disability, lack of income, and are living in roofless houses or what looks like a dollhouse, completely open on one side. It's almost as if we are living in a war zone with constant sounds of helicopters, sirens, and sights of destruction. Reunions with our friends and loved ones, however, were unforgettable and riddled with tears. Looking around, everyone had the same fatigued, sunken expressions on their face. Dirty clothes, bandages, and fuel tanks had become our attire and accessories. Diesel, bug spray, and body odor our cologne. Once we did gain access to the small number of gas stations or stores that were open, the supplies were next to none, and lines for purchasing items took hours, and still do 1 month later. Never mind the hours we spent in traffic to get there, traveling merely a few miles or so with a tank of gas that we're not sure that we can refill because the gas stations are constantly running out of gas and diesel. All this had to be accomplished during the initial 4 or 5 hours we were allowed to leave our homes during curfew, which now has been extended to about 5 hours or so. Thankfully, however, we have learned to be resilient as islanders. I've seen most of the roads being cleared by families and private citizens working together in teams. The amount of gratitude we all feel to have survived overcomes those feelings of loss and has driven us not only to move forward, but rebuild our islands, our homes. We need help, however, and we can only do this as one world, one family. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our story. My name is Noelle Olive, and I survived Hurricane Irma and Maria 2017.